Look who's back with us. Townhall.com's Guy Benson, Fox contributor. Hey, Guy, it's great to see you. Your take on the primaries tonight. We're hearing far-left progressives now in defense they could lose. We've got primary ballots in 5 states today. What do you say?
Well, the progressives generally have struggled in some of these head-to-head primaries against the establishment of the Democratic Party. The establishment in that party remains pretty strong, also much further to the left than they used to be. But a lot of their voters are a bit more pragmatic. They want to win elections, which is why the squad has struggled to expand in a lot of cases. But I think the future is definitely moving in that direction for the party. And we'll see if progressives might be able to pick up, 1 or 2 victories here or hold some of these seats in the primary this evening and beyond. It'll probably be a mixed bag, which is not a bold prediction, but likely a good one.
Yeah, 2 squad members face challengers. Missouri Representative Cori Bush. She's getting slammed by Democrat challenger State Senator Steve Roberts. He's saying she's a hypocrite. She's demanding defunding the cops and defunding police as crime skyrockets, and she spends hundreds of thousands of tax dollars on private security detail. And then you have progressive squad member Representative Rashida Tlaib, 3 primary challengers. They are slamming her for defund the police, no cash bail, trying to get rid of federal prisons. Those 3 challengers saying you're making crime worse.
Well, it's tough to beat an incumbent. That's usually true. It's especially tough when there's a splintered field and the incumbent is one of 4 people. Advantage Tlaib there. I would say probably advantage Bush as well, because these are both high-profile members now who get a lot of attention. I think a lot of it is negative attention. I think these are 2 of the worst members of the House of Representatives. But, we'll see. I think that the base of the Democratic Party likes to see people who are out there fighting and throwing rhetorical punches, and Bush and Tlaib both do that all the time, I think, for terrible causes, almost always. But because they're incumbents and they have that advantage, I think they're probably the favorites, but we shall see.
Former President Donald Trump, he has endorsed, we're hearing more than 24 candidates in the primaries today. GOP Senate primaries, including Arizona and Missouri, GOP House members in Washington State and Michigan. They face a conservative backlash over their votes to impeach Trump after the U.S. Capitol riots. Trump is still facing hot water because of the January 6th hearings. Also, the race to replace term-limited GOP Arizona Governor Doug Ducey. It's pitting Ducey's chosen candidate, Karen Taylor Robson, against Trump-endorsed Kari Lake. Where do you come down on this one?
Well, the polling seems to suggest that Trump's picks in Arizona and the 2 statewide races, the big ones, governor and Senate, are the leaders of the pack. We'll see if that is borne out. I saw 1 or 2 polls that showed the Ducey and Pence-backed lifelong Republican right neck and neck with Kari Lake, but most polling shows Lake a bit ahead, if not ahead by double digits, and we'll know soon enough this evening. And then also, Missouri is a very big one. We talked about Cori Bush, but on the Republican side, that Senate race has been volatile. Trump did his sort of trolling non-endorsement yesterday where he just endorsed Eric, and there are 3 Erics in the race running for that seat. And so I think he's clearly hedging his bets there and trying to do it in a humorous way. But his batting average is pretty good in Republican primaries. Not perfect. He's gotten a few big losses, especially in Georgia this cycle, but having Trump in your corner, certainly helpful, and we'll be watching a number of those high-profile races in a couple of those states that you just mentioned. By the end of the evening, I think we will hopefully have a clearer picture of what the party, the Republican Party, will be going to bat with, going to play with in a general election in some of these extremely important races.
Guy Benson, great to have you on. Good to see you.